Some 200 years after the overthrowing of the Yuan Dynasty and the rise of the Ming, Nanchang saw the demise of another rebel army and the death of yet another would-be emperor. This time, the two major opponents were both the descendants of Zhu Yuanzhang himself. Nanchang at the time was the power base of the Prince of Ning, Zhu Yuanzhang, who was a member of the Ming Dynasty's royal family and a sixth-generation descendant of the first Ming emperor. From Nanchang, he would launch a rebellion against his distant relative sitting on the throne in Beijing, the Zhangde Emperor. The Zhangde Emperor was childless and lacked an heir. The Prince of Ning had been pushing for his own son to take over as heir apparent. The rumors of the prince's ambitions did not go without notice in the capital, but were ignored by the emperor. The reports that the prince has been gathering an army when the military power of original princes has long been abolished were also ignored. Furthermore, the prince has been bribing members of the emperor's cabinet as part of his plans to usurp the throne. In 1514, he seized land and property, issued taxes, and recruited bodyguards after successfully bribing the general and minister of war. By the end of the year, the prince was so emboldened that he no longer referred to himself as prince, but began to refer to himself as emperor and even issue imperial edicts. For some reason, this too was ignored by the emperor. In July 1519, 4 years later, when the prince was attending a banquet in honor of his birthday, a spy arrived from Beijing with the news that the emperor has had enough, and that high officials had been sent from Beijing to Nanchang to arrest him. The prince left the banquet at once and called an urgent meeting of his most trusted advisors. They all agreed that, now that the prince's plot was out in the open, he could no longer wait to take action. On the 10th of July 1519, the would-be emperor Zhu Yuanzhang assembled local officials and announced that the person on the throne was nothing more than a child of a commoner. Those that did not cooperate, including the governor of Jiangxi, were summarily executed. The prince's army then marched out to secure the route to the Yangtze River and take Nanjing. The nearby city of Zhejiang fell to his army on July 13th, and the city of Anqing was under siege by July 23rd. When this news reached Wang Yangming, the governor of southern Jiangxi and one of the great masters of Confucianism, he immediately took action. Wang spread a false report that a huge imperial army from Beijing was marching to Nanchang. The prince, deceived by this, hesitated in his advance and gave time for Nanjing to be reinforced. On August 13th, Wang Yangming and his army reached Nanchang. The city was lightly garrisoned. Soon after news of the siege of Nanchang reached the prince, he orders his army to head back to Nanchang to protect his base. Wang, unlike the prince, did not hesitate. His army quickly engaged the Prince of Ning in battle. On August 20th, 1519, the rebel prince and his army were outright obliterated in what is believed to be the first use of breech-loading cannons in China. Cannons Wang bought from the Portuguese. The prince and his allies were shortly captured, including the commander of his imperial guard and his minister of war. The imperial status of the prince was revoked, all his family members executed, and he was finally allowed to take his own life on January 13th, 1521. A mere 2 years after the revolt, the emperor died of an illness, caught after, according to legend, falling off a boat while drunk.